And all the difference in the world can be to keep going, to keep pushing past fear. Now, fear is false evidence appearing real. It is a state that does not exist, and only love, connection, and growth can really overcome fear. Fear is an addiction. So, what you really, really want in this life might not be what you think it is. We're allowing our minds to torture us in pursuit of what we think we want and we don't want. A lot of what the mind delivers. And so we're addicted to fear of the past, we're addicted to fear of the future, and that keeps us in a state of anxiety, right? I mean, that's obvious. So if we're ever going to heal that anxiety and cure this brain's addiction to fear, we're going to have to call on reality, because your brain is operating on one side from memories that have been distorted and tainted, and on the other side, it's operating from imagination, wild imagination that can run rampant and bring anxiety to the party and make your life absolute chaos. So here's the thing. You're going to get frustrated if you let your mind lead the way, because you won't be living out your full potential. The mind only has so much energy and so much potential for you every day. And it is addicted to those memories. Everything that it has learned and memorized is now what it is saying that your future will become. So your potential right there is very, very limited. If we face fear, we need to stop. We don't need to battle. We don't need to fight. We need to face fear. Stop and look within. And first you will see past pains, a self-esteem that has been tarnished by your past. You'll see your self-worth and all your doubts when you first look into what your mind is telling you on a daily basis. But then something wonderful happens. We break open. We do not break down as your fear-based mind thinks you will. We break open. And when we break open, which is called transformation, when we break open to new possibilities that we thought never existed before. So transformation is really to go above your form, your mind, which is every neurological happening that is happening inside of you, rather than what your brain thinks. It's not happening as much on the outside of you as it is being experienced on the inside of you. So if you're looking in the wrong place, it's like living in the dark. Anyone living in the dark should and would be afraid. So it's a lifestyle of fear that you need to overcome. And most of us have done fear thinking for years. We've done anxiety building for years without possibly even being aware of what we're doing. We overthink. We are stuck looking for one possible outcome after another. And eventually we start seeing snakes in our path. Our minds, our lizard brains, were designed millions and millions of years ago to keep us alive. There was something on every corner that would kill us. And the metaphor of ropes and snakes means that if one day you're walking down a path and there's a snake there, your mind will emblazon that fear into you so that next time you see a snake, you jump, right? But the problem is, when you start to wake up, you'll see that the snakes aren't really there. That is the addiction to fear. The snakes are actually ropes. So you don't go down that path. But the path is safe to tread, right? So neurological change is going to be needed to reprogram your mind and get out of that anxiety, because all of this is happening if you are not mindful and you are not conscious of what you are doing with your 86,000 thoughts a day. Your mind is probably locked into fight, flight, freeze. It is locked into survival mind. And it is keeping you alive, sure. But where are the things you want? Where is your potential to get all the things that you want out of life? So this is what I mean when I say what you really, really want in life might not be what your mind is bringing to you every day. Your mind is what attracts everything that you need into your life. Its job is supposed to be keeping the fear and danger out of your life, but bringing in new potential. And if you don't experience new potential in your life, your mind is probably not balanced, and neither are your emotions. But then we move on to another problem, because when our mind is not balanced and when we're full of fear and anxiety and depression, which is obvious with an unbalanced mind, we then turn to medications. The first thing that people do with an unmanaged mind today is go and look for medication to sort out their thinking. They are looking to ease their addiction to fear with something external that they can put inside that will help them think differently. And it's not working. It's not working well enough. It can ease the symptoms. It can dress the symptoms like a band-aid dresses a wound. But that wound can fester inside. So we need to be more specific. Some people will go to an astrologist. They'll look for the answer there. The astrologist will tell you that Lion's Gate is open, and that's the reason why your stomach is in a knot and you're full of fear. It's because of the alignment of the stars, people will say. That's the reason for your anxiety. Maybe it's the full moon. Anything on the outside. Panic is a pandemic, and it's an internal one. So if we're looking to the calendars and the stars to heal, we must look at that stardust that's inside us. The stars on the outside have been doing fine for 14 billion years. But if you in your short life of 30 or 40 years are suffering, don't look to the stars. First look inside and realize that those stars, that same stardust, is what you're made of. And it's what takes one thought of your 86,000 thoughts a day from one side of your brain to the other. The stars are fine. You're in panic, locked and addicted in fear, because you cannot stop your addiction to believing 85,000 thoughts that are there to just save you and not activate your potential. They've got no interest in metaphysics, potentiality, or intention, other than the intention to keep you safe. That's what survival mind can and will always do, nothing more. And so, the best way to tell if you're addicted to fear is understand that if you walk into a movie theater and you have an anxiety attack without your consent, in other words, it just comes out of nowhere, and your heart starts pumping, and you start sweating, and your chest is palpitating, and you fear for your life, you're probably seeing snakes where there are only sticks. So to be mindless is what they would have called in the old days to be blind. And I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see, is really a story about someone talking about the two paths that we can take. To be mindless is to live in fear. So what do? You practice mindfulness every day. You practice meditation. You stop that mind doing what it does, and you become a witness and a manager. You need to show up. Your mind will only take you halfway there. Its design is to take you halfway there. Unfortunately, we're human beings having a spiritual experience. That means we are two. We are both external and internal. We're a small self and a big self. And that does make life difficult. But what it means is that we need to transcend the regular, the learned, the memories that have now become mundane. I mean, are they mundane? When last did you ask yourself? If you're not actualizing your potential, you're living a mundane life. We need to self-actualize ourselves by going beyond the mind and emotions that served us 20 years ago. So we wake up from these emotional addictions and reprogram our brains, our hearts, and every neurological chemical in between. When Eckhart Tolle did his work on A New Earth, he said, the primary cause of unhappiness is never the situation, but your thoughts about it. So there we go again. Our thoughts are the problem. The mind trapped in fear is the problem. If we look at the very last book of Revelation, we will see that they spoke of a new heaven and a new earth. And they were talking about a new Eden that comes through and puts all the past behind. What was old disappears and passes away. So there's a need for the new. New thoughts are something that you're going to have to put on intentionally. So those memories that keep you safe once will not work for you. You're going to need a new Eden. You're going to need a new state of mind to navigate life with all of its intensity. And digging deeper than the mind, you dig into the emotions. And a good example of that is, ask yourself where you were when 9/11 happened. Where were you when the planes flew into the towers? Can you remember? And most people can. And then I can ask you where you were 3 Thursdays ago at 11 o'clock. What did you have for lunch? And you're probably not going to remember, because there was no emotional intensity with it. So when you bring body, mind, and soul together, you really bring a package that is packed with potential, energy, potential, intensity, and intention. If we're ever going to wake up from emotional addictions, we need that new software and hardware, just like we need a new earth and a new heaven and a new mind. And Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So a time will come when you need to rewrite your story. Not do the same story over and over and over again, which is a modern day addiction. And if you want proof of that addiction, just switch on the news. Look at the news and media and see them disasterizing, like a mind stuck in survival mode. Look and see. Every story talks about looming disaster around the next corner. Of course it's going to be on half the channels on your television. The media and news thrive on what you thrive on. And I find that people who awaken their potential and have a paradigm shift or a life shift tend to not watch the news anymore. They don't feed the sleeping dragon that is going to run rampant with fear anymore. They just don't do it. So we can look to the news, we can look to the stars, and you will see two types of stars, two types of energy potential. So if we look to the heavens, the astrologers will tell us that one star can die, disappear, burn out for no apparent reason, while another star explodes into light and becomes a supernova. Why this happens is probably to show us how to live our life. I mean, haven't we all heard the answers in the stars, right? So to become the supernova, to become a shooting star, you need to understand that your intention and your potential are going to have to be intentionally activated. You're going to have to create and then recreate, becoming more and more like creation. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? That's the math of the universe right there. Look, let's end on this. When 50% of your operating system is unconscious, you should be afraid. You should be very afraid. If you're walking around asleep in the dark, you're probably living a nightmare on a certain level. Who wants to live not knowing what is going on with half of their life? If you believe that the subconscious is okay, then decide that everything is an accident. Decide that it's just all happening to you. And then you can live a life where you go and get just the medication and don't do any internal work. You can sit and think that the answer is written in the stars and that you have no potential to activate, change, attract anything you really, really want in life. Happiness and peace, surely happiness and peace are something you want more than fear, anxiety, and depression. So whoever walks around in the dark is going to walk around with a fatalistic, nihilistic, chaotic attitude. There's no reason to create anything in a life like that, where things just happen by chance. But I don't believe in chance anymore. The stars will show us that there's two ways to go: fear or love, external or internal. I think it would be foolish to drive a car on autopilot. I think it would be foolish to drive a car when you're not concentrating, focused, and you don't have the right intention to get to your destination. If you become mindless, you will crash and burn. So it's the same way with your memory. Your memory is always going to be locked in the past. If you are allowing your memory to operate your day to day, you're walking around in the dark. And in the same way, on the opposite side, if you're allowing your imagination to run wild, your imagination is always going to be locked in survival mode. It's always going to be locked in what lies around that next corner. And it's going to create fear, a state that does not exist. FEAR, false evidence appearing real. And that's the diction of the brain.